Sure.
Good morning, everybody. So this is a pretty special week for sponsored programs. This is in-person week. And we've flown in, over since the pandemic, the dynamics in our office has certainly changed, where we have hired a substantial number of remote employees, and many members of our team work on a hybrid basis. And we're just, it's just fantastic to get everybody together this week. And it's great to see you all this morning. And I love the energy in the room here and in the hallway. I think it's terrific that the OSP team has gotten to meet so many of you, work out in the departments and schools and other units. So welcome everybody. It's a special day. So we'll start as we normally do. If anyone, we'll start with the people here in person first, and then go to the people tuning in via Zoom. If you've joined our community since the last draft meeting, please stand up and introduce yourself. Yes.
Amanda. Last quarter.
Guys, say it proudly.
Hi, I'm Claire Child. I'm new to the outgoing sub-awards team in the pre-award section.
Thank you.
I am Sandy Ulmer. I am a contracts negotiator.
Hi, Amanda Sylvester. I'm on the pre-award team and senior grants admin.
I'm Nikia Wangas. I am also sub-awards.
Andrew Vassafear, and I'm working on award setup in OSP.
Kelly Bergeron. I'm in OSP as a senior admin.
Thanks, everybody. And is there anyone online who's joined our community since the last draft meeting?
I believe Jason Elledge should be online. That was the plan anyway. Jason, are you there? Maybe.
Is he being shy?
I mean, he might be.
There he is.
Anyway,
I see
he's
you there.
our senior contract administrator.
There he is.
Senior grant and contract administrator at the Biocomplex Stands.
Hey, Jason.
Hello. Glad to be here virtually.
Welcome. Glad to have you here. All right.
We got another one.
Sorry, did I talk over somebody?
Yeah, hi, I'm Meredith. I started last month in the Center for Diabetes Technology, and I'm working remotely from Michigan.
Nice.
Oh, terrific. Welcome, Meredith.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. First of all, I appreciate everybody getting here at 9:30 and having the opportunity to socialize. So this is a bit of a different meeting. Normally, we're pretty content heavy. We go about 2 hours. This time, we want to spend the first hour to take advantage of everyone being here. And then the second hour is we're going to get into the content, which we're going to do right now. So we're going to start off, Erica Pretty and Stephen Cooley. We're going to talk about RAD and BPR training and other communication updates from their area. So Erica and Stephen, come on down.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to who's remote, who's here joining us this week. It's nice to see this room so full. I'm just going to start out by introducing the VPR training team and Stephen here, even though some of you have probably already met Stephen. So for those of you who don't know, we've stood up a training team specifically for research administration training. It falls under the VPR's office, and I'm the manager of that team, and we have Stacy Kernison here. She's remote, but she's here today with us. I do have to call her out, have everybody give her a little clap. She just got her PhD in adult education. So, and then Marina Muchnik is also remote, and she is in Ohio, and she is our compliance training specialist specifically for the IRB, and we might have her branch out at some point, but right now she's on the IRB training. She's putting together some wonderful trainings. So, and then we've got Stephen Cooley here, who is our research navigator. And he's going to kind of start out with the first slide talking about what that is.
Yeah, so what is a research navigator? So this is a position that was created under the Strategic Research Infrastructure Investment Initiative. There are currently 2 of us right now. I'm working with OSP Communications, and there's another Lucy Jones, who will be joining us in August, who will be working with research development. So currently working with OSP Communications, I'm kind of manning the OSP help listserv. So any requests that come in through there, I'm trying to help figure out where those need to go. Working with the website, so currently it's more triage and cleanup and kind of updates as they're needed. This summer, we're transitioning to Drupal 10, which will give us a little bit more functionality, such as I think we're going to have like integrated calendar functionality, as well as a cleaner look, a lot simpler to navigate, hopefully. And then finally, it's kind of being a liaison between the research administration community and OSP. So part of that, I've been setting up meetings with people in the different departments to kind of get to know research around UVA and kind of figure out how I might be able to assist to build stronger relationships between the community and OSP. Last thing, in relation to this exploratory kind of meeting everybody, if I haven't had a chance to meet with your school or department, please reach out and we can set something up. And then also, I want to ask if you could start thinking about whether it would be helpful if we try to set up kind of ongoing meetings with the different schools and departments to make sure that that relationship is staying strong. So reach out for anything. I'm here, and yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. All right. Yeah. So the training team also has a website that we're developing. So this is a brand new website, and the goal here is to have all of the training and resources, like quick reference guides and job aids and videos and things like that, all in one place. And so we're kind of building this from scratch. So some of the training content that you might find now on the OSP website, we're sort of working with Stephen to figure out what information belongs on the OSP website, what information or training belongs in the training website. So we're looking at that. This is a little image of kind of the current state. We've got stuff all over the place. This is not just OSP. We've got OSP, we've got environmental health and safety, animal care, workday, schools, research development, research security, human subjects. It's all over the place. All the compliance areas and everything all have kind of their own places where they point people to training and resources. And so again, our goal is to bring that all together, make it a little bit more specific to like what your role is, maybe what training applies to you. And so that's the goal, and we're working on that right now. The goal would be sometime this summer to have that and roll that out. Should be getting access to the ability to start building it very soon. So I'm really excited about that. And if anybody has any suggestions or requests, go ahead and send those my way. These are just some of our training development, current projects, and upcoming priorities. So I mentioned IRB 101. We're also putting together the annual CRA review course. Stacy's working on that, and so that'll start this fall. And that's something we've had for several years now, where it's been CRAs, people studying for the CRA exam, but also we've opened it up in the past few years to those who are not necessarily. You might want that content, you might want a refresher, you might want the networking opportunity. And so it's really open to anybody now. It's over Zoom, so there's no limit. We don't have to find a giant classroom. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be releasing details on how to sign up for that soon. Stacy's also working on an agreements webinar, an outgoing subawards video, and then we've got the RAD, Research Administration Dashboard. There's the regular RAD and the PI RAD, working on some resources for that. Actually, I have a little bit of an update for those of you who are using it now. I have an update on some changes that are about to happen. And then we're looking at just streamlining those existing resources, updating microlearning videos for the IRB, looking out at those other compliance areas as well, and like what training needs to be updated for those areas. And then again, focusing on that website and putting all that content together. We do have a survey, and so I will send this link out. I guess we send out the slides after the fact, so this link will be in there. If you do have some feedback on training needs or things that you go to find a resource on and you can't find it anywhere, or something that's not clear to you, just please fill out the survey so that we can start gathering. We've reached out to the community before, and we do have some previous feedback. I mean, reporting always comes up, award closeouts, generally the Huron stuff, faculty training and onboarding, and new research administrator onboarding. Those are things that have come up in previous sessions where we tried to get feedback, but please add to that list. Really, nothing's too small, just it's good for us to have a list of things going where we can look and have projects kind of out into the future. And then some other areas are just compliance. We know that Workday is a challenge, so working on improving some of those resources and training especially for people who are in the finance system but are working with grants and how to specifically do those things. And then again, the website. So any questions on the training team? I do have a RAD update after this. Feel free to reach out to me directly, or we'll send out this survey link as well after this session.
So quick question. I see that faculty training and new RA training onboarding is part of the feedback. Are any materials being developed?
Yep, so we're looking at that, and we're actually working with the group Raptor. So there's a lot of work has already been put into place by this group. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but a lot of work has been put into place for research administrators especially. But I'm also looking at faculty specific, what do the faculty need, onboarding, offboarding, things like that. So. All right, so just real quick on the Workday RAD and PI RAD enhancements that are coming up. These should probably be in place by the end of the week in the actual production environment. So if you're already in the system, a couple things might change the way they look. You're going to have a few other capabilities, and PIs who are in there right now will notice that they can see more because we made some changes to their permissions and access. So one thing, if you are in PI RAD or RAD and you'd like to make your own like My Sheets, one thing that's being added to that, I'm sorry, this is just for RAD. One thing that's being added to that capability is the ability to add a journal memo line and we get that pulled over from the financial system. So you just add a column and you can now add that journal memo. And it sort of appears with the details where you can go and see that kind of more contextual information if you want. So again, this is if you're building a My Sheet, it's not just inherently there in the reports. Because we did get some feedback that people thought it might be a little cluttered. We do work with a group. We've stood up a governance group to sort of run by ideas of enhancements by this group and test things out. And so all of these changes I'm talking about today have already gone through that process of the governance and been tested. And so probably by the end of the week, again, it'll be pushed to production. Another one is just sort of adding a note. So you'll see these notes in RAD to alert you to if there's some sort of issue going on, a known issue, or but also to provide you some additional instructions. So this just provides you with a little bit of instruction. It's in both apps, but if you want to see all of your or just your subaward data in this, we're suggesting a way of filtering that data. So that's all that note does, is give you that suggestion. This one's a bigger one. This is where we've allowed a different access. So previously, PIs were given access based on what they were grant lead PI on. And now in addition to that, they're seeing things that they are award lead PI on. So that's expanding what they were able to see before. In addition to that, when they go to their BBA, they're able to now select an award or multiple grants. And see the BBA broken out like that rather than having to go one grant at a time. They're able to select it that way and then expand and drill down to the level they need to drill down to. Another big change was adding a cost share, salary over the cap sheet. So this gives some visibility into those maybe designated funds that they have cost shared to. When you're on the BBA, all right, there's an actual expense summary, but then there's an actual expense detail as well. And then when you're on the BBA, it has this small box that alerts you to the fact that there is cost share. So if you've already filtered on a grant and it's showing you your grant BBA, that little box will show you, hey, there's also cost share, and then you'll know you might want to jump over to this sheet and take a look at the details of that. And so these were enhancements that were based on requests from the field, feedback from the field, so you guys can keep that coming. And we will take it to that governance group and it'll go through that process of being discussed and prioritized and then tested. And so that's kind of the process going forward, and we're looking to do this on more of like a quarterly basis where we make these enhancements. I think this is the last one, is that there are additional payroll data sheets. We got some feedback. There is the payroll cost distribution by employee sheet, that was a new enhancement kind of previous to this release. And then we got some feedback that people wanted to see it in different ways. They wanted to see it by pay period, they wanted to see it by pay date. And so we've added those sheets as well. Oops. There, I thought there was a box around it, but it's down the bottom left of that box. So a couple different ways for you to do that. So you'll have to go to the menu of sheets to navigate to those sheets, but they're there for you in case you want to see the information in different ways. Are there any questions? All right, well, please keep your feedback coming about training in general or RAD enhancements that you'd like to see, and we will be happy to try to help you. Thank you, Stuart.
We have a big decentralized community, and within that community, organically over many years, a number of different meetings and forums have arisen, and it's an interesting mix of opportunities to get together and solve problems or share information, and then we have other means to communicate with each other as well. And Bill Shoulder is going to give us an overview of what that looks like and what the future might look like. Center of Powers.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, as Stuart mentioned, the goal here is to overview some of the various meetings that are out there. We've had, this has come up in a few different settings now, and I've gotten some positive feedback, and people are interested in, okay, I want to provide feedback, or I want to learn about professional development opportunities, and where do some of these things exist, particularly for new folks. And so what I'd like to do is go over a little bit about some of the various alphabet soup that we have here as far as research administration related meetings, report out on some of the work that some of those meetings are doing, and then also request feedback from you all, particularly folks outside of OSP, to provide feedback on ways that OSP can better communicate out the work that we're doing and changes in the research administration landscape that are helpful to your jobs. I think we're trying to be a lot more intentional about how we are communicating out information, and we are receptive to your feedback. So this was sort of the original chart, and I think we'll probably put this on the website at some point, just because I think it gives a helpful summation. It also breaks down into sort of cadence and how to get involved. So I'll go through each of these individually, but just to give you a sense of the summary. And it's been great to partner with Erica and Stephen on some of their work. So Stephen, heads up, this is coming your way to go on the website. Okay, so the core team, and most of these are acronyms. I don't actually think core team.
It is technically an acronym.
It is?
It was the continuous improvement. I forget. I found ways to name it the core team. It was from our days of Huron implementation, where we had a group of super users help us build Huron, and we kept them on as the core group. And then when the process improvement group got formed, we just kept on calling it.
Right, so we have sort of a core group of users, and we meet, let's see, it's monthly at this point for about an hour and a half, and that's usually online and we have sort of a running agenda of, the focus is at the very granular process level. How are we interacting with our electronic research administration system primarily? I think naturally the conversation moves into processes related to the Huron system and how OSP and the units are interacting as they're using the system. And thus far, we've had some great discussions, and recently we implemented a process to essentially notify the unit, the school, when OSP is processing a new award. So we have that information problem a lot of times where OSP is being notified that a new notice of award is received through the OSP NOA inbox, but the administrator may not know. And what we're trying to avoid here is sort of linear work where OSP starts on something, then we have to put it on hold, go to something else, hand it off, and get updated compliance or a revised budget or something like that. So we want to notify the unit at the point of us receiving the new notice of award, so that the unit is aware and is able to do a refresh on those types of key items that could hold up and delay the award setup. We've recently talked about iterating and expanding that, and we're discussing expanding that beyond just sort of the new award framework, because the same issues can happen for modifications as well. So I think that's an interesting area that we can, again, hopefully streamline the award setup or award modification process in overcoming some of that information gap. We've worked with some of the major business units on creating centralized email inboxes to streamline some of that communication. A lot of times in the point at which the proposal is submitted to the award is issued, administrators may change. And so this helps us to make sure that that flow of information is getting to the people that will need to respond and provide feedback to OSP. And the other thing that we have tackled is standardizing some of the award naming conventions so that it's much easier to find information when you're going back through an award, because everything is named in a consistent manner. And shout out to Lauren for the rubric that we used, that we piloted and then adopted. Okay, so OSP Spotlight, this is new. And this is part of the sort of intentional outreach that OSP has started. And it's sort of a two-headed monster, if you will, where there is a monthly hour-long Zoom. It does not occur on months where we have the RAF, just because it's probably duplicative since the RAF is focused on providing updates. And then there's also a supplemental newsletter that is sent out, as well as the in-person Zoom meeting. So we find that it's somewhat challenging to rely just on a newsletter to provide up all of the updates, that a lot of times it's more beneficial for us to go on a Zoom and do a demo of new functionality or a new process. That's a better way to communicate some information as opposed to in written form. So we're sort of blending the two of those together, hopefully to more frequently provide updates to the community that may impact your work. And it's been great partnering with Stephen on that. And we're excited about the ability to provide more information in a systematic manner. So, Research Administrators Forum, congrats, you're here, you know this one. Like I said, this is sort of the quarterly major update from the VPR from OSP. And like I said, we are pairing that with the spotlight so that information is not, we're not only providing information on a quarterly basis, because that's just not, things are changing far too rapidly for that to be sufficient. I also just wanted to highlight that I don't have this broken out in the chart, but there's lots of school and unit research administration meetings. I'm sure your manager and has told you all about those, but just to plug, the school medicine research administrators meeting, the RAM, is also a good resource. Particularly just, there's a lot of good topics that get discussed, and it's a good way to get a sense for things that are being discussed in the research administration community. So that's more unit focused, but obviously School of Medicine being such a large unit, that there's good information available there. I also want to highlight and I know Erica mentioned Raptor as well. Wanted to highlight Quora and Raptor, since these are really good professional development and learning opportunities. Quora has this community of research administrators the two have recently sort of partnered up and synchronized in terms of their cadence and how they're structured. So Quora being a monthly presentation format, with Raptor being sort of the more informal Q&A format that allows for, and the Raptor being bi-weekly, the week after the Quora meeting, there's focused discussion on the topic of the Quora meeting. So a great way to, particularly if you're new to research administration, to learn about important topics and also opportunities within the community, conferences, webinars, things like that folks can learn about. Okay, the Research Administration Improvement Team, RATE. This is a very structured monthly meeting for research administration leaders that represent all of the major research units, and allows very focused discussion about issues that cut across all of research administration at UVA, with an idea that we can discuss and better understand some of the challenges that are facing UVA as an institution, and make recommendations to the powers that be to make improvements. So we recently restructured RATE to sort of return it to its original focus, which is a very focused on problem solving, that we want to sort of separate some of the community updates and information from the discussion about solving issues, and have RATE focus on the latter. And that's some of what generated the OSP Spotlight, so that we can provide more of the updates to the community. Recently, we submitted a letter to UVA Finance advocating for prioritization of tuition remission and health fees to leverage the employer paid expense feature in Workday. So that was something that we received feedback from both OSP post-award as well as folks in the community. I know SEAS is very interested in seeing these changes going through, and I think it was a really good model to pilot for future issues, where RATE can advocate on behalf of the community and put things in front of, in this case, UVA Finance leadership to hopefully prioritize changes that will benefit all of us. We've been discussing AI implementation in research administration, and created a AI-focused working group. There's been a few different initiatives throughout the community, and we want to make sure that we are I think there's broad support from the VPR's office in terms of adopting AI tools to facilitate research administration. I think the question is, how well are these tools compared to what they're advertised? And do they do what we need? And so understanding what the need is and how those tools fit into to our broader workflows, I think is the focus, and Stephen Cornelison is heading up that work group. So excited to provide some further updates on that front in the future. The other thing, and this dovetails with what Erica and Stephen discussed a little bit, we've been talking a lot about training and workforce development on research administration within UVA. There's been a lot of, as we saw earlier, there's a lot of new folks that were hired in the past 4 years or so, and folks that are relatively new in their research administration career. And we want to be strategic in the way that we are devoting resources for things like onboarding, for things like professional development. There's initiatives at some of the various schools that OSP is focused on, that other schools and units are focused on, and to the extent possible, we want us all to be paddling in the same direction. That we don't want sort of individual units to overlap with what work that the other units are working on. Okay, the last thing I'll highlight, and again, kudos to Stephen on this. He's been working on an OSP announcement and events page, which we're excited about. I think the goal here is to provide both updates on internal events, like I said, professional development opportunities within the community, that sort of thing, but also regulatory policy changes. We've got quite a few of those coming down the pike. We'll hear Irmela on UG changes here in a few minutes. And so our goal is to provide more of those updates in a relatively short, terse manner, and a link to whatever it is the agency guidelines or whatever it is that's being released. But it's a good way for us to kind of quickly get information out that this isn't like a long write-up and detailing any process changes, but it will hopefully provide the initial awareness that changes are coming, for example. This is also not an OSP exclusive sort of page. Like, we want to hear from folks in the community, and if there's a way we can sort of signal to boost your event or something that's relevant, please reach out. Have Stephen's email here, as well as OSP Help would be a good way to send those types of updates our way. Any questions?
So Bill, one comment. The letter that Rate generated was presented by Kelly to finance leadership. He said this is exactly what we want in terms of prioritization, understanding where we should focus our energies. I imagine it was rather ceremonial with a diplomatic pouch. And the letter was laid in front of him like so. But in all seriousness, it was very well received by finance.
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, can you explain exactly what the ramifications of that Workday functionality is?
I absolutely cannot. I will.
So basically, we are asking them to give us the ability to cover a student's tuition remission and health fees through the student's payroll allocation process. So this is, imagine an employee getting employer paid benefits. So very similar concept. So the student will receive the proportionate, part, not the student, UVA will receive it, but under using that payroll costing allocation process. So a GRA is getting paid wages, and a portion of the tuition and health fees is getting charged based on the distribution of the GRA's salary. So this only took us, what, 2.5 years to, this was, a concept that Josh Bridden had told us about. And Josh is now, no longer with UVA, and we are still trying to see if through rate, we can get this done. So.
We're like,
I'm just gonna ask, how and who, what platform AI are we thinking potentially? And what, just some examples of how it could potentially be used?
I think we're sort of still in the exploratory phases. I know there's been a lot of the industry groups as far as Incura and SRAI are hosting a lot of events, and there's been a lot of, I know I'm involved with the FDP, and there's just been a lot of discussion, and I think everyone is sort of in the same spot as far as just trying to survey the landscape. So I think it'd be premature to kind of identify. I know, for example, the contracts team is investigating opportunities there. I think I've seen in demos sort of generating and writing budget justifications, things like that, as the tools to supplement workflows in that area, like identifying ways to find information on our websites, that sort of thing. So I think and that's probably just the tip of the iceberg, like as far as what potential tools are out there. So I think it's really a matter of identifying what the needs are, and sort of surveying the community, which is challenging because it's changing so rapidly.
Does Perplexity come up? Just FYI, something to investigate. There's a free version and a paid version, and it works really well for getting information and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say talk to Steven,
All right, I will.
and yeah, we can, I know he's gathering information at this point, so.
Cheers.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mike Pretty, come on down. So I think Mike for a bit was a circuit rider. You were always appearing at meetings wherever I went. So Mike's been obviously a point person for the payroll allocation confirmation system, which we've all come to know and love. And Mike has been instrumental, I think, in helping everyone understand how it works, and maybe in some cases how it doesn't work, and we work around that. But I saw this as an opportunity to get Mike in front of everyone and sort of give us a, where are we now? PAC's been live for.
This is our third generation, so we're going on 12 months, 13 months since go live, yeah.
So it's a good time to sort of see where we've come and where are we going. Mike, take it away.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mike.
Just like we were saying, this is our third generation using the PAC system, payroll allocation confirmation system. We break our statements now down into two separate statements. We have a payroll statement, which is for our faculty members. They certify their institutional based salary, if they have sponsored pay or if they receive Medicare cost reporting activities. We also generate statements for that. And then we have what are called grant statements. This is when you've got a non-faculty member who has got payroll allocated to a grant. That principal investigator will then certify that statement for those salaries. So I want to give you a quick update. So we are on our third generation and give you the numbers as of this morning. So our due date was April 5th for this last reporting period. For our faculty or payroll statements, we've certified 2,217. We have 13 that still need to be pre-reviewed, 66 that need to be certified, and 5 that have been recently reopened. And then for our grant statements, we have 2,226 that have been certified, 91 that are ready to be certified, and then 13 that need to be pre-reviewed. You might hear those numbers and think, oh, is that good or bad? I will tell you that the numbers have been increasingly better. The timeliness and the response times that we're getting for things to be pre-reviewed and certified are getting better every generation. And we just want to say a huge thank you on behalf of OSP because it has certainly been noticed. We know that payroll is not easy in Workday as it pertains to grants. So we know that the effort that you're going through to get these statements in order to be certified. So just a huge shout out to y'all for getting this accomplished. With that in mind, we're going to go over some lessons learned and FAQs. A lot of this might seem like rudimentary because a lot of this discussion is going to be navigation in nature. But this is only our third time using the system, okay? And we only do this twice a year. So a lot of people are getting in this system 2 times a year. And so knowing where things are is a big part of the questions that we receive in our office. So when we generate statements, the first thing that happens is that you go to your landing page, you get an email from the system. It looks like it's coming from OSP PAC, but it's an automated email. And then you see that you've got awaiting certification here, this red arrow on the far left. And so you might think these are all of the statements that you have to get done to accomplish getting your statement certified. Not the case. There's actually a second tab over here to the right called Associated Grants. That awaiting certification, those are just your faculty statements, okay? On the right-hand side, those are your grant statements. So we need to definitely use both of those tabs when navigating throughout this system. I know it seems simple, but when you're just going through your daily work, plugging through what you need to do, a lot of times we just see that first tab. Just about a week ago, we added this language here. It's kind of hard to read, but it says, welcome to UVA's PAC system. The tabs below contain various tasks that require your attention. Payroll reporting coordinators, please use the cost center dashboard to see all statements for your assigned cost centers. We're going to go through the navigation of your cost center dashboard, and we're also going to talk about a lesson learned relating to what happens when you assign a grant manager for a grant statement. So how to get to our cost center dashboard? First, we go to this Manage tab. We go to the cost center dashboard. It's actually on that same light blue line. And then you're taken to this screen here. If you're assigned to multiple cost centers, you're going to have a drop down right where it says choose right there on that right red-handed line. You'll select the cost center that you want to address. And then you'll see that we've got that other red arrow right below this that says payroll certifications. This is where you're going to find all of your faculty statements. You get a nice little breakdown of the percentages that you have got left to certify. So in this cost center's example, we've got 4 statements left for certification, 14 that have been certified, and 4 that have been auto-approved. Auto-approved means that you just did not have any, that individual did not have any sponsored salary or Medicare cost reporting activity. And then at the very bottom, you'll see each individual statement and its various statuses that need to be addressed or that have already been addressed. Similar to that first page, same thing happens on this page. You're going to have to tab over for every different type of statement type. So now if you go over to your grant statements, we can see the same information, but just for our grant statements. It lists out every grant ID, the grant manager, the principal investigator, the cost center, et cetera, and their various statuses. Additionally, from this screen, right below that red arrow, you'll see the period. You can actually fluctuate between every reporting period that we've created to date, including the one that might be building at the moment. So you can operate all your reporting periods from that drop-down list. This takes us to grant manager roles. Lesson learned from us. When we first went live with the system, we took the list of grant managers associated with everybody in Workday, and we applied that grant manager to this in all these roles within the system. However, we're not sending a daily feed of grant managers to the system like we do for principal investigators or just payroll in general. This was a one-time load. And the reason for that being is that if you wanted to change the grant manager within this system, if we send that nightly feed, it's going to update and override whatever you update every time. The other thing that we learned is that when you take that grant manager role and it's different from your what we call payroll reporting coordinator, when we go back to this area here where we have the payroll certifications and the grant certifications, if you have a grant manager who is different from your payroll reporting coordinator, that statement is pulled from the payroll reporting coordinator's view. So maybe you think you go to your homepage and you're seeing all of your statements. That's not the case. If you have an assigned grant manager who's different from you, that's now going to fall on the grant manager's homepage, which is why we keep telling folks to go to the cost center dashboard, because that is going to be your source of truth. That's going to show you all your statements that you need to get certified. Because a lot of the questions we get are like, we have a onesie twosie, and I'll send these emails like, hey, we need you to follow up on this statement. Like, where do I find it? I've looked, and this is now how you find it. One other question that we get a lot is, I've submitted a payroll accounting adjustment, and now my statement does not total 100%. And if you look down here at the bottom right, this is in green, and this one's good to go because it's in green. When it doesn't total 100%, it turns red. If you ever see that situation, there's a reset button on the far left of the statement, 2 arrows going in a circle. This will reset those values, and then you'll be able to move forward with taking your actions. These are really only the points I had for today. If any questions regarding PAC? Jeff?
Mike, I've always wondered, what determines the interval that we're doing a payroll certification? Why is it twice a year? Why isn't it once a year? Why isn't it 4 times a year? I'm just curious how we landed on it.
I can tell you the history. That's about as good as I've got. So when we first took over this process, we were generating staff and wage statements 4 times a year. We were doing academic faculty, meaning non-school of medicine, and GRAs 3 times a year. And then we were doing medical or 12-month faculty twice a year. And so to reduce the number of statements, and I think I've reduced it by about 24%, we went to twice a year.
I get a question quite often. Why didn't we use Workday effort certification system?
Great question. That was a long process of evaluating that system. The long and short of it is that our School of Medicine faculty, their institutional basis salary is constituted of UPG pay and academic pay, which comes from 2 different companies in our financial system. So we could not pull in both of those to give you a full 100% allocation of their salary within that. But Huron could.
Sometimes faculty or PIs came to us asking us for data for them to validate how to certify the report. Is there something data that's already in the system that we can show them, or we have to actually go into Workday to pull the raw pay data?
Yeah, so we recently created a RAD report, labor distribution RAD report. That's pretty, it's in my opinion, a lot easier than the payroll journal lines detail report from Workday. I've got some training, I think we have some training materials on that. Yeah, but if not, I can certainly show you that.
That's the one we use.
But it's just you put in the employee name, you pick the pay periods that you want to see, and then it shows you in a bottom right box the full distribution for the 6 months.
Do you not have the details in the PAC system also?
Oh yeah, you do also have a set of core reports within the PAC system. Right next to that arrow with the 2 circles, there's a tab right next to that. It's a drop-down list of reports, and it will show you pay period by pay period how the payroll is allocated, including
The
adjustments.
display is not great.
Yeah. It's not in an Excel format, it's a PDF, and so. Any other questions?
Very
Thank you,
nice.
Okay, so Carlos is going to talk to us about really a substantial rewrite of uniform guidance that is now effective, and I would be remiss if I didn't add that IRMLA worked with Cougar directly to, as part of a group, to provide feedback on the uniform guidance. And so we're grateful for her expertise.
Oh, thank you. So I was one of probably half a dozen of reviewers who Koger had selected to give feedback on the proposed changes. So it's not, but it was a great experience for me. So the guidance, the OMB guidance is actually changing for the entire grants and cooperative agreements process. So the policies and the processes. So this is under part 2 of the 2 CFR, and this is not just for the uniform guidance. Uniform guidance is just 2 CFR.200. There are a whole lot of other guidances that are also changing and that are going to impact our grants and cooperative agreements world. So they have changed the name of this title to Federal Financial Assistance from Grants and Cooperative Agreements. And the deadlines, this is very important for us to understand. The initial rollout of the guidance was announced by the White House on the 4th of April, and we all got very excited, and we logged on to the webinar only to see a few folks from the White House, and they didn't speak about anything that were of interest to us. So my entire team, 20 people plus, I don't know, from pre-award who all attended, they just wasted their 1 hour. Then we found out that the final revisions have been posted in the Federal Register on the 22nd of April. And of course, we noted that there was an OMB memo that was issued by the current administration that provided the guidelines on how to implement this, the new changes. So the agencies have been required to submit their implementation plans to OMB by the 15th of May. So although the changes are effective as of 1st of October 2024, agencies will have to figure out their implementation plan. And then there is a huge change in the Notice of Funding Opportunities template. Agencies are required to submit their preferred templates to OMB by 1st of August 2024. So we may not see any changes until, probably end of August. Then, the ALN numbers right now, if we have to find out the CFDA number or ALN number and find out a program, we have to go to usaspending.gov or, I don't know if sam.gov gives us that information. But now the government is creating a database it's called FPI, Federal Program Inventory. The agencies have to enter all their ALNs in that inventory. And then that is also by August 1st, 2024. Single audit. So we have our own auditors from the federal side. Our cognizant auditors are DHHS. So the government wants every single audit agency to enter their information in the FSC database. FSC is Federal Audit Clearinghouse, and that is also, that's the deadline is May 4th. So these are all things that are happening all across the different guidelines. And now these are just, I listed out the different parts that are going to be impacted because of these changes. So 2 CFR 200 is the uniform guidance that applies to us, that, no, I have to correct myself. All these guidelines apply to us, but we work with 2 CFR 200, the uniform guidance. And, Kelly Hochstetler's team will be working with something else, some other guidelines. But for us, OSP, we concentrate on the uniform guidance. Now, just a quick look back. So in December of 2014, this is when multiple OMB circulars, A121, A120, 1110, all these different circulars were incorporated into one single guideline, which was called, the Uniform Administrative Requirements and Cost Principles, came back and, we changed the name to Uniform Guidance. Then there were not too many updates, there were, minor version edits until August 2020, when they did, made some changes to the language in Uniform Guidance. But again, we didn't have to touch our policies or procedures. It was, very editorial changes. Then in February of 2023, OMB actually made an announcement that they were going to make some major changes in their guidelines. And that's when, our ears perked up and we started looking at what are the proposed changes. Then in October of 2023, this actually published the changes that were going to come our way. So we, of course, concentrated on the Uniform Guidance and, I joined the Koger Costing Group team just to see what kind of changes that will be impacting us. We all gave our comments and Koger actually responded on behalf of 200 plus members. And I have given the website if you want to see, how we responded. And we also made some recommendations for future changes. Now, in April of 2024, OMB has actually published the changes through a special website. They haven't updated their, current Uniform Guidance website because they can't. They have to wait till the effective date of the Uniform Guidance. So, but they have actually published all the proposed changes that are coming in. And also they have quoted every response. Every comment has a response. So if you go through the full document, you're going to see, oh, this comment was made by this person, not by this person, this comment was made by the public, and this is our response to whether we have, accepted those comments and or if OMB has rejected that comment. And I have, a quick slide on that. So third-party in-kind contribution was, some commentator said something, some commenter said something, and that was actually accepted by OMB. So that's written in green letters. So I just wanted to mention, there are quite a few comments that have been accepted by OMB, but there are quite a few that have not been accepted by OMB. So one commenter asked OMB to include the definition of total cost in section 200.1. It wasn't accepted by OMB. So, that thing, I just wanted to show you an example of how, if you have time to read what has been published thus far, it's very interesting, but it's got about 900 pages long. So now OMB has, issued some plain language revisions. So right throughout subparts A through E, non-federal entity has been replaced with recipients and subrecipients. We have gone back to indirect cost from facilities and administrative costs. We used to see throughout the guidelines that OMB, would use, you are supposed to submit your report through OMB designated system, but they never mentioned the names of the systems. Now they're actually mentioning which system you're supposed to use. So those are all nice changes. Then now under the UG, there are different subparts A through F. And beyond that, there are appendices. So subpart A is actually meant for acronyms and definitions. There have been a lot of changes in subpart A. So I have just, taken some examples and showed it in the slide deck, but there are quite a few changes. So we do need to read through those changes, and then we have to go back and update our policies and procedures. Because the definitions we used are now going to be, old, and we need to update them. So they have used in this guideline must, may, or should. In the old guidelines, OMB would always say, you must do it or you may do it. But now, they have must, may, and or should. So we have to figure out when they say you must report on this, that means we have to have a policy supporting that must or a procedure. When they say, the universities may decide to do this, then that's kind of recommendation. Should is in between must and may. Have to have it. So it's continuation funding, again, they have added the definition, which was never there because we knew what was continuation funding. It's common sense. Cost sharing definition now includes matching because we always had, this discussion. Is matching same as cost sharing? Yes, it always was. But now they have included matching in the cost sharing definition. Then they also increased the threshold for equipment, added definition for for-profit organization. Key personnel was never defined, which I didn't even realize. So now they have added definition of key personnel, added definition of institution for higher education, which is kind of in a common sense, but again, to align the definitions with all the other guidelines, they have added that. Then revised MTDC sub-award threshold to 50,000, added definition for prior approval. We know what is prior approval, but prior approval, added definition of participant.
But we don't always know when it should or if we may.
Must and should, policy and procedure. Then also added clarification on question costs. So the auditors often would have fun with, us saying it's a question cost. It's, a known question cost if they could pinpoint down to, the actual cost. Otherwise, they'll say, oh, it's a likely question cost. Now, UG has added definitions for known and question costs. Expanded special purpose equipment to include associated software. Again, common sense. Without the software, you cannot run the equipment. So in subpart B, this is where the section is, general section where they talk about, the basics of UG, how to apply UG. So they used to have a very nice table for applicability. So you could just look up the table and see, 200.303 internal controls. It applies to all kinds of awards. But now they have removed that table. And KOGA tried so hard, to force them to put it back. It's gone. But they have, replaced the table with all these different sections where it tells you, how to read the general, ideas about UG and how to apply the different rules. So there is a lot of discussion about fixed amount awards. And so they spoke about fixed amount awards in subpart B as well as later on, right through the guidance. So a fixed amount award is, basically a type of a grant or a cooperative agreement, and that is subject to multiple subparts of 2 CFR 200. Obviously, since it's included in, the UG, they have to be subject to all the UG guidance. But then they go on to say that there is no expected routine monitoring of actual cost, which is good for us because if you issue a fixed price award as an outgoing sub-award, our management time gets reduced, it becomes more efficient because now you're going to judge the sub-awardees on the performance basis. How, have they submitted all the deliverables? We really don't care about the cost. A fixed amount award must not be used in programs that require cost sharing. Again, that is, common sense. We have clinical trials here where we have offered cost sharing. I have never seen that. You don't need to offer cost sharing for all kinds of awards. So that's included in the guidance. Now, notice of funding opportunities. The government is paying a lot of attention to how the recipients are going to find out about what the program requires and in very easy language. So the different agencies had different templates that they were using. Now they have to have their templates. All the agencies will have to submit their templates, preferred templates to OMB, and they're going to be approved by OMB. And then it has some more examples, but I don't want to go through that. This is probably, export control issues.
Well, if you go back to the telecommunications piece, it says you can use one as long as you haven't used federal funds to buy it, but like, what
Correct.
institution's gonna track that? You're just gonna say, don't use it, right? I mean,
Just say don't use it.
so
Yep.
I haven't put it in there.
Right.
But-
Then expanded internal controls by requiring recipients and sub-recipients to establish document. Inserted that, word document and maintain effective internal control. If you don't have documentation, how can you maintain effective internal control? So these are the, very simple language that they have used, and they have made those changes. But because of this, we have to now make sure that our policies are updated with exact that language. Also, cost sharing, it actually explained the voluntary uncommitted cost sharing, and if a PI is spending more time than the original committed effort, then that is not to be counted as cost sharing, which we already had from Kelly's time in our procedure. So, so again, we know about all this. Performance measurement, they're saying that, we have to pay more attention to the performance of the program. Financial management, they added cybersecurity required to safeguard information. Federal payment section says if we earn interest on any of the federal dollars, then we have to return it through the payment management system, which is used mainly by DHHS, so NIH, NASA. So we have to use that particular system to return any interest earned. And then financial and performance reporting section has, a whole lot of guidelines, which is again nice to read. Revision of budget and program plan includes, federal agency or pass-through entities, review and response within 30 days. Here, this is where Simon and team, if they receive a request from one of our sub-awardees for, a budget change or change in program, we have to respond to them within 30 days. So again, this is going to impact our procedure. Then I'm just going to skip through this. I'm running out of time. So these are again, procurement methods include a new section. Federal agencies providing federal financial assistance for infrastructure projects must implement Buy America preferences set forth in 2 CFR Part 184. So the acronym for this particular statutory requirement is BABA. I guess I should just, I found it too funny. Then, like these are some examples of the subpart E, which is cost principle. We pay a lot of attention to the cost principle. So basically, they have removed prior approval requirements for 9 items. The old version had A through Y. And the new version has A through P that I mentioned as items against this guideline. Then expanded deviation and using negotiated indirect cost rates. So now OMB is allowing recipient or subrecipient to go straight to OMB and report any deviation that's been created by a federal agency by not accepting our negotiated indirect cost rate. They do not mention where we have to go and how we can report on the federal agencies, but this is now included. So hopefully, we are going to get some more guidelines or guidance on this. Raise the de minimis rate to 15% of MTDC, which we knew was coming, and I think we welcome that. I'm looking at Stephen. Expanded required certification section. So I don't know if you all know, for every financial report or invoice that we submit to the federal agencies, we have a certification language that's kind of, it says that it's a criminal offense if we are, not disclosing the right amounts or whatever. That language now has to flow down to all the subrecipients. So if we are receiving a subaward from another entity and we are the third tier subrecipient, we have to include that certification in our invoices or financial reports. And we have to make sure when we are issuing subawards to other entities, they also include that language. So Mike's team, Simon's team, they both have to be aware of this. Then, of course, they have removed the requirement of disclosure statement. This is something that, our finance folks were maintaining. So now that's gone. It was in an old OMB form, and we are very happy that it's gone. But this was helping us to document all our accounting practices. So now with that gone, we have to find out, what other documentation will be required by our internal finance area. Standard for documentation of personal expenses, they have just moved the sections, so it's we have to now revise the policy. I can go on and on and on. But these are all very good information, and you're going to get the deck. And it's going to be published, and you can take a look at it, and I will make sure that we have the website that's available for you to go in and check. So I'm sorry, I've been you should have given me a little more time.
In all seriousness, she's spot on. This slide deck that she put together is extremely valuable, and I encourage you to read it after the fact, and then feel free to ask questions of the office. Simon Butcher. So Simon is head of our outgoing subawards team. You will tell by his Texas twang that he's and Simon's going to give us an update on all things outgoing subawards.
Yep, thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, Simon.
Hi, everybody. Now's a good time for us to give you a little insight into the subaward team. Because recently we've been offboarding some of the consultants that were making up the team for the last year or so. We're now pretty much completely OSP UVA staffed subaward team now. We've got one more consultant helping us who's going to offboard in June. But now that we're fully staffed by UVA employees, I just want to introduce the team. You met Nakia and Claire earlier, but if you guys could all stand up again. Adetra disappeared, she ran out. Omi Leora's there. So thank you, guys. So some of the team have other responsibilities, but we've probably got about 5 FTEs now dedicated solely to the subawards on the pre-award side, which is a great investment on UVA's part. I think I'd be surprised if there's a bigger team out there at a comparable institution, so we're very lucky on that front. So what do? Well, we work on your outgoing subawards and all the amendments related to those, drafting, negotiating, getting them executed. We, between January and April of this year, we received 269 actions to work on. So again, new subawards or any amendments. If we estimate that out over the course of the year, we're looking at about 800 actions. If we get some busier months, it might hit 1,000, but I think somewhere right in that 800 to 900 range is what we're going to see as a team. So those numbers break down to about 25% new subawards and 75% amendments. So about 1 in 4 actions that we work on is a new subaward. It's a similar ratio across all of these categories that I keep track of. Maybe a little less there, 1 in 5 foreign to domestic. The really interesting one I find is the federal to non-federal. So about 24% again of our actions is a non-federally funded project, which is a bit higher than I was expecting when I first came on board, especially with how many NIH amendments we see come through. So that's just a number to remember as we work through this slide deck. Some recent initiatives that the team has put out there. A couple of these items, the first one and the fourth one, you'll have seen kind of get communicated out to the community, the consortium commitment form updates, and the quick reference guide that we put together for creating amendment requests. Those two, hopefully, most of you are aware of. A couple of items that are internal to the team is an update to the risk assessment questionnaire that we use. We've readopted or adopted the FDP template to use. The hope there is that we'll get greater alignment between what we're capturing in our system as high-risk subawards and what we're actually modifying in the agreement to mitigate a risk. Right now, or previously, we kind of had a disconnect there. So I'm excited that we'll have a greater continuity between those two items moving forward. We actually just started using that updated risk assessment questionnaire last week. So hopefully the team is excited by that. Some nods. As we saw a minute ago, so non-federally funded agreements make up about 25% of the work that we do. So it made sense to invest a little bit of time in our non-federal template. We've been updating the language, updating the format of that agreement. 2 reasons will hopefully be, one, it'll make it easier for us to all draft and to work with. But secondly, hopefully make it a bit easier to negotiate and get executed a bit quicker. We see a big difference between sending out an FDP-based subaward to somebody and how quick that can get turned around versus sending out what looks like, a whereas, therefore, contract with all the legal language in there. It takes a lot longer. So if we can make our non-federal process and templates look a little bit more like our federal ones, we might be able to process things a little better on that front. So again, that's a template that we finalized recently and just pushed out to start using in the last week or 2. We have a few different irons in the fire at the moment, different things we're working on with a lot of people that have already been mentioned, Mike's team, Stephen's team, Erica and her team. One of the ones I'm most excited about on this list is developing website content. So we're hoping to get a lot more instructions and resources, information out there for the UVA community, but particularly have a section that will be facing out to the subrecipients themselves, especially for new or less experienced subrecipients. We'll provide some information for them. Hopefully it'll be a place that, community of the field, you can direct your subrecipients to, but also to back up when we get into discussions about what we can and can't do and what they should expect. We can be referencing the content we're going to put online. A couple of other items that I tied something I mentioned ago, the risk assessment questionnaire update. Now that we've established this new tool that we're going to use the actual questionnaire, we can look at our process a little bit more and see how we might streamline that piece of it. Right now we're looking at how right now we review a risk assessment for every new subaward that we process, basically, which some of our more frequent collaborators, we'll see on the next slide, is a lot. It's 50 plus times a year. There's probably a definite argument we could be making for maybe doing that on an annual, biannual basis. So that's another item we're looking at there, the top left corner, and working with Mike's team and Batra, the rest of the invoice team, on how we might align the pre-award and post-award audit review piece that we both do. I love metrics, so I'm going to share a few more numbers with you. From the time that we receive a subaward to be worked on with my team to when it gets executed, our average processing time is about 45 calendar days, so a month and a half for new subawards and about 3 weeks for amendments.
Simon, is that fully executed or just signed by us?
So most of the time we're the last ones to sign, so same thing, but yeah, fully executed. Now there's obviously a big piece before that where the record's being prepared by you guys, gathering that information. So that doesn't include any of the pre-submission state. And also, once it gets fully executed, there's a time where it needs to be set up in Workday. There's other processing pieces there, and that's not included in that number. So I definitely want to be upfront. That's not from start to finish all the way through, but it's the main slice that the team and myself are involved in currently and that we're working on it for. So I think those are pretty reasonable timeframes, but the hope is that some of the initiatives we've already rolled out and some of the ones we've got coming in the future will help shave some time off that. I'm biased. Obviously, I think most of this time is sitting with some other university while waiting for them to send it back to us. But you might have different opinion on that one. I will
So
skip-
Simon,
yep.
can I ask you, what about Payment Works registration?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
normally that's
included in
going
it?
on concurrently with this. If we notice somebody's not in Payment Works, most of the time we can reach out to the sub, get that resolved before we get to this execution. But you know, obviously some of these documents are moving a lot quicker than the average.
Right.
I would say though the correlation between if somebody's not in Payment Works, they're probably going to take more than 45 days just to get it executed anyway. So that's a good thing on the Payment Works side. We've got extra time, but the bad thing is your amendment that your subaward's sitting there for 3 months. Yeah, so normally we can kind of do those processes at the same time. Yeah.
So is there a plan to make this more visible for the PI in terms of knowing exactly where something is? Huron is just too hard for faculty members to use.
Mm-hmm.
So to try to understand, is it out for signature or negotiation at the other site, or where is it in the process? Because we still hear, the anecdotal, it's taken 9 months, 12 months, whatever it is. And without something to point to, it's hard to say what's going on.
That's a good question. So it's not something we've really, I could give you a great answer for immediately, but it's a good question for me to go away and think on. One of the things that we're working on for the website is, more of an overview and better example of those times, but for an individual PI like the scenario, that doesn't tell you anything, right? That's just average. I definitely don't want you calling me up on 45 days and saying, why isn't this done? Balancing out the communication is always a tough thing too. I'd be happy to send everybody an email, every state, but nobody wants that. Nobody's going to read those. But yeah, something to maybe think about more. Maybe there's dashboards we can integrate with Erica's team and different things. So yeah, thank you. Since I've got a captive audience for maybe a minute more, there's ways that you can help us make things run a little faster and a bit smoother. The main one would be to ensure that all the records you're submitting to us are complete. So, all those ancillary reviews, all the needed documents are attached. And then a big one that we've seen recently is making sure that primary award actions are complete. So if, you're waiting on the next budget period to be authorized or an extension approval to come through, hold on to your subaward record until those have all been completed. If there's a reason that you need us to move forward a bit sooner, definitely reach out to me and we can, work on those special circumstances. We can start doing some prep work. There's only so far along the process we can go though until those reviews are complete and, the primary award actions have taken place. A little bit related to that is the cleanup of the pre-submission records that we're wanting to do. Maybe some of you've been contacted by us recently, and also we've put something out in one of the recent spotlights. I think it's because of the Huron setup that there's so many records out there, but in pre-submission state, there's fluctuates from about 130 to 140 records. About 100 of those haven't really been touched for a number of months. If we can clean up some of that, help you discard those unneeded records, we can maybe do some more proactive work on our team before things are ready for full submission. And a real quick reminder there that for subawards, we don't need to see that UVA PI COI check. That's all taken care of on the primary award. So by the time it gets to us, that's not needed. And finally, a few things beyond the agreement that we could help you with if you encounter any questions about subrecipient or contractor determination, particularly at proposal stage, but maybe throughout the lifetime, you can reach out to us. We're happy to give you a second opinion, play devil's advocate, debate it with you. Similar to that, if you get pushback from a subrecipient about any of the documentation that you're asking for, we can review the situation and again, give you our assessment. And obviously, like a big one, if you ever are encountering any risk or monitoring concerns with your subrecipients, you should reach out to us. We'll coordinate with Post Award and anybody else that might need to be involved, have a discussion, try and get that potential issue with your sub resolved. And on that front, how you can contact me or us, OSP NOAA, they'll filter it through to us. You can reach out to me directly. Whoever on the subaward team is the most fresh in your mind, you can reach out to them and they'll help you. Teams, phone call, but email's great because we get that paper trail started and helps us refer to it again later. So sorry, that was a little bit fast, but that's everything I've got. There's more questions.
It's great to see the improvement in processing time.
Thanks.
One of the feedback we sometimes get, or confusion the PI has, once the agreement is signed, it still takes some time to actually process that into work days. Is there a way to kind of, when the agreement is signed, something will get processed in work day?
Yeah, so actually it's a good, you kind of set me up there after by we're now we've got such a good team and we're looking to have this team in place. My team is going to take over or take back that role. Before we just didn't have the capacity to do it. So Krista on the Post Award side was doing that for us kind of extra on the side. But the goal is over the summer, we're going to train up so that that'll be done by the person that works that sub-award through. So instead of there being that kind of handoff process, right, where just natural delays occur, instead now the team's going to take that all the way through to workday setup. So yeah, bear with us. It'll take a little while we've been in a nice little comfort zone of Huron. We're going to be in workday next, but then we'll be doing that too. So hopefully that will see some improvement there.
I will applaud that. Thank you.
Here we are. So I imagine most of you have heard of the HERD survey, the Higher Education Research and Development Survey we do for NSF. This thing's really complicated. And the rules change from year to year. Our internal processing changes and systems changes impact all this. It's a critical survey. It's research expenditure data, and Vonda's team is in charge of it. Congratulations again. And she's going to tell us all about it. So,
hi, everybody.
Sure.
So I want my team to stand up. They hate this. I'm doing it anyway. So they're right here in a row, and literally you have to bend your knees and like up. So they're all introverts, but they're smart. Jeff, who also just got his PhD, and we love him. And then this is Debbie and Cy. So those guys are amazing. We can't do anything without them, and they really are a great bunch, a great team, a great bunch of people to work with. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Higher Education Research and Development Survey. We consider this a bit of a beauty pageant, kind of a friendly competition amongst all of our institutions of higher education across the country. At the end of the slide, I will explain for the Who's and for the Hokies that are in here where our local competition landed. Just say go Who's, but I'll give it away. Okay, so we're going to go about what is the HERD survey. So the HERD survey is an annual survey that is conducted by the National Science Foundation, and it's supposed to capture all our research and development expenditures across institutions. So that's not only just sponsored programs, but that's also university expenditures, because the university spends a lot of money on research every year that is outside of OSP. So this survey is supposed to report on all of those expenditures. You have to be over 150,000 in a fiscal year to have to report. We obviously are way above that. WISE, however, fluctuates and it goes back and forth. So some years we have to report them and some years we don't have to report them. And they do get reported separately for a number of reasons. We started the HERD survey, not we, the ultimate we, in 1972. That's how long it's been going along. It became the HERD survey in 2010. It started with academic research and development survey. As all good federal reporting does, it starts with a survey. If you ever get a federal reporting requirement of a survey, trust me, it will become a report later in life. And you will do it every year thereafter. In fiscal year 2022, there were 900 institutions. So it's really grown and it really does give you a good pulse of where you are. UVA is number 48. And we're pretty proud of that number. Out of 900, that's a really good number. Come on, guys. So we slice and we dice those expenditures a number of different ways. It is very complicated. We pester poor Irmela all the time over the HERD report because they want federal versus non-federal, foundation, industry, foreign, any way you can slice it by discipline, by type of cost. They are talking about adding space into this. Everyone, please, let's all ask whoever you ask, do not do that to us. Facilities and management data will not be a good thing for us. It'll be a lot more complicated. Personnel is hard enough, believe it or not, because of the way folks are classified in our Workday HCM system. That's not an easy demographic to pull either, but we do assign researchers, technicians, and support staff as best we can based on some of the families that we have living in the Workday HCM data system. So they define it in 3 different ways. It's basic, applied, and experimental. They give us the definitions. As with all good federal definitions, they are broad and subject to interpretation most of the time. So we do our best. We come up with ways that we've defined things. We have a lot of mapping and crosswalking that takes place in order to determine what goes where. There's a lot of wizardry that happens by that guy named Cy over there and Debbie, his partner in crime, to make this come out right. And then we document it all because even though we have never been audited on the HERD, we actually have been FOIA'd on the HERD. So we get Freedom of Information requests on the HERD survey, which is worse than an audit, depending on who's asking at the time. So we make sure that we've got it documented, we've got it identified, everything that we counted, it all ticks and ties back. For those of you that's known me for a long time, which a lot of you I understand in this room have not, because there's a lot of new faces, we tie to pennies. We tie to pennies all the time. So how is the R&D activity defined? Again, these are your 3 boxes. We put this in the slide deck so you guys will have it as a reference. I don't expect anybody to read it now or really comprehend it that well now, but afterwards, you might find it kind of interesting reading. This describes what's included and excluded. We don't get to count all of them. Some of them they say, are not allowed. And here's what they want you to include. Again, I think we would be higher than 48. This is Vonda's opinion. If everybody counted the same, so I would rather have more definitive rules on what counts and what doesn't count. UVA probably in general is more conservative than a lot of folks, I would say. Irma is nodding, she agrees with me. Because we do want to be able to defend what we put in there. Even though it is a competition, we want it to be fair from our perspective anyway. So we're going to show you some numbers based on UVA that we are filing, and we're going to show you that this is the first year we had to pull from Workday. So we had conquered Oracle, and then they shifted us to Workday and the FDM. How many in the room love the FDM? Yeah, I didn't expect to see that many hands go up. It's complicated, it's good, but it's complicated. And so you have a lot of flexibility in the way you can tag your expenditures, and I'm using that term loosely. I'm not talking about an actual tag, but in general, the way you identify them. And that causes a little bit more of a challenge when we're trying to pull these to report them to the federal government in a way that makes sense to them and fit into their mold and their model. So these are the specs of how we pull it. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to my team. We're happy to answer those questions out of our help desk. So this shows you our 3-year trend. We've gone up every year. which is nice. That's why everybody sees everybody growing in personnel, is because we're growing the research base, which means we have to grow the support, right? So for research administration. And that's what we're all here trying to do today. So we've gone up every year for the last 3 years. We will say that we had to make a lot of notations in this year's survey because the way we recorded things in Oracle are very different than the way we recorded things in Workday. So we did a lot of mapping, but that also, Workday gave us a lot of more detail. So when they wanted us to go down into the weeds further, Workday enabled us to go down into the weeds further. So that caused variances in the report. So NSF has an amazing BI team. They have a wonderful computer department, they're NSF, right? And so they trap all these variances and then they come back to us. So we're on our third round of explaining those variances to them because it's just different. You know, cost centers that were in Oracle, that was one cost center as an org, right? May have become 5 cost centers over here in Workday. Or the vice versa. We could have 5 orgs in Oracle, they turn around and became 1 cost center in Workday. So that causes variances when you're reporting by discipline or by org or by cost center. So we're explaining them, they're taking them, we're hoping it'll be published and they'll be accepted. They don't publish until fall, but we're hoping that they'll actually give us it's okay, I bless thee, we accept your survey. The reason I point this out is we are number 48. You see us there in yellow. Johns Hopkins, aren't you proud of me? I always leave off the S, has been number 1 for a very long time. People are trying to catch them. They're getting closer, but they are still number 1. We gave you some notes that are in the HERD survey of why they may be number 1, like an applied physics laboratory, which is like 70% of their money, but they're still on top. Other people are encroaching, other people are combining things like Maryland. But the important thing to know is us in yellow, and from the interesting statistics in 2010, we did this manually, so it's all with a disclaimer, but we feel pretty confident. In 2010, because we couldn't find that report, we were not doing it at the time, we ranked number 73, right? So now we are in 2024 and we're in number 48. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good going towards the top. I don't know we'll catch Johns Hopkins, but we're giving it our best shot. We're gonna keep going. The other important thing to note, Hokies, is you guys are number 53. I just wanna throw that out there, all the Hokies in this room, who I adore. But they're closing in too. So Virginia Tech is about to give us a run for our money. So we've got to keep ourselves moving up that ladder. Any questions? Yes, Alex.
So the data that you collect for the HERD survey is rich for research analytics. Is that something that we have access to when you're done with it?
No, but I'm glad you gave me that segue. I'm gonna have to buy you a drink. You guys are setting us up really good. We are getting more into the analytics business. We are heavily involved in the AI research. We're on a lot of committees at the federal level. And I know that the VPR's office is interested in us setting up a lot more dashboards. So there will be more to come on that because it really is a lot of really good information. And the second part of that is some of that information, all of you all have to apply to us manually. You have to give it to us manually. And so we can't get it ourselves. So we do owe everybody in this room a big thank you for helping us get that data back because with the SIS, we can't get it. So people give it to us manually. And we realize it's a lot of work. But it's really important for all of us to recognize it's a win. The higher we go in that HERD survey, it really is a win and a testament to everybody that's in this room that's helping that research go up at UVA. So we really do appreciate it.
Can you make it
Yes, thank you.
available to the department if they ask just the departmental information? I'm using the word department because I don't know the new word. But like if Alex is like, can you at least give me my stuff?
So that's an interesting, good question that Alex already has experience with. So Alex does get stuff from us.
He does.
And he would like more stuff from us.
My faculty, because
advocating
I
for
was
you,
full
Alex.
of data science, my faculty wants all of it.
That's right, they want all of it. So I know that there had been a shift between Oracle, which had these concentric circle model of security where everybody saw everything, you signed on the honor system, to Workday and Huron, where they went to a very much more restricted model. I know that there's been discussion at the research roundtable, which you can probably speak to better than I, about deans wanting access or not to their data. So I know that folks, Stewart, VPR, Kelly, they're all working to see, we all are working to see how much data we can free up. Because for those of you who's been around a long time, my model was I always like to free my data, right? So we are working on those types of things. Any
I
other?
know I've been talking to Kelly about research data warehouse and many things that need to change at UVA in order to do real research analytics.
Exactly.
Fundamentally change how we do things.
And we're right there with you. We agree, Alex.
Define how you use the function code for research. That's, the fundamental definition that we are not getting help with. So if we know how to use the right function code, the data will be very easy for us to pull.
Right, and that's one of the bigger problems. When we're looking at this in the weeds, because that's what we have to for HERD, because that's what we do. When we're doing the ticking and the tying, it's all over the place. And I'm going to other folks at UVA, because we don't own the function code, saying, hey, who's doing the oversight on this function code? Because this seems a little strange here that I have XYZ function code sitting on sponsored programs, or I have research function code sitting on something that makes zero sense to have research sitting on. And so to Irmila's point, until we get that better defined and a better, cleaner data environment for us to work in, some of what we're pulling is very manual at this point in time.
Maybe some best practices that would help people give you better data.
I don't own expenditures.
We'll cover that in a separate session.
Yeah.
Thank
y'all.
But thank you for doing it.
Thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining us for our in-person week. You've made today special. I appreciate y'all being here. Just logistics, if your team OSB stay here, so we need to coordinate a couple things to get to our luncheon, and thank you all very much.